Want to know the growth secret that has made Joe Rogan the world's most recognizable and profitable podcaster? Hey friends, Leighton Hart from Market Street Media. Rogan has a tactic that any podcaster can adopt, and when used the right way, this can fuel massive audience growth for you. So let's talk about how Joe Rogan hooks listeners. For the casual observer, it's easy to overlook the sheer volume of content that Joe Rogan creates. But since launching the Joe Rogan Experience 11 years ago, he's published over 1,600 episodes. So now he's more than a decade into podcasting, and he's still publishing about 200 episodes a year. At the same time, part of Rogan's brand are these deep, long-form conversations with guests who are either interesting or controversial, or some combination of the two. And as you may have noticed, Joe Rogan's episodes regularly run like 3 hours long. But even Rogan's podcast isn't a field of dreams, build it and they will come situation. He's incredibly strategic about hooking new listeners, and he uses a tactic that any podcaster with serious growth aspirations should consider. Let's talk about how YouTube feeds Joe Rogan new podcast listeners. So we all know that Joe Rogan is the world's biggest name in podcasting, but it's also important to note that he has a huge, and I repeat, huge presence on YouTube, and that's no accident. Joe Rogan has two main channels for his podcast. The first is called PowerfulJRE, and the second one is called JREClips. PowerfulJRE is where Rogan's full, hours-long episodes are published. PowerfulJRE has 11 million subscribers and 35 videos with more than 10 million views. Those numbers alone make Joe Rogan a top YouTuber, but neither PowerfulJRE nor the Joe Rogan Experience podcast would be what they are without a different channel. They wouldn't be what they are without JREClips. And while JREClips is a little bit smaller with 6 million subscribers, the views on JREClips are outrageous. I went through and counted at least 200 videos that have fetched 1 million views or more. Pretty incredible, right? Let's unpack this YouTube to podcast growth formula. When we look at the size of Joe Rogan's audience and the volume of content that he's creating, we can start to see the formula that he uses. The first step is to show up on YouTube in small bites. The next step is to invite the audience to try the full-length episodes. And then the third step is to create a mountain of content so that Joe Rogan can't be avoided online. Here's how Owen Grover, who was the CEO of Pocket Casts and is now the CEO of TrueFire Studios, here's how he describes Rogan's YouTube strategy. He said so much of the consumption of Rogan's stuff, especially for people who don't know or care about downloading a podcast app, is on YouTube. In other words, the growth secret that helped make Joe Rogan the biggest name in podcasting is YouTube. As Grover says, Rogan uses YouTube to, quote, create different entry formats that scratch different itches. And there's still another reason why sharing your podcasting content on YouTube is crucial if you want to grow your podcast audience, and that's this. Your podcast can't go viral without YouTube. As much as I wish things weren't this way, the truth is, it really is nearly impossible for an audio-only podcast to go viral. Podcast sharing simply doesn't happen with audio only the way that video sharing happens with YouTube clips. So what does that mean for you? It means if you want to reach big numbers of new listeners and viewers, you've got to show up in places like YouTube and in ways like a viral clip that will let them sample your content before diving all the way in. Now you know one of the secrets to Joe Rogan's massive success, and you can use the same technique to grow your podcast and reach huge numbers of new listeners. And if you need help creating a YouTube plan for your podcast, we are happy to help. Just shoot us a message and we'll set up a time to chat.